Just get out of this town. It's real. It's all real.
Thanks for rocking that awesome background.
Oh, appreciate you. Congratulations on a wonderful film. I was able to get a chance to watch it a couple nights ago. So appreciate you making time today. I guess a good place to start would be this is your first time jumping out of, the found footage genre. So I wanted to get your take on whether this was done strategically just to make sure you weren't pigeonholed into that genre, or do you feel it's more of just a natural evolution with you as a filmmaker?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. That's like a 60 minutes question. Man, that's really good. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think I did want to break out of the found footage format to make sure that I could. I mean, that's what I went to film school for, was for traditional narrative, not for, I didn't go there for found footage filmmaking, but I have a love for found footage myself. So making found footage films was a lot of fun for me. But I did want to break out of that. But I think it also just allows for different types of scares to be told. I think it's tough to write different scares within the found footage format over and over again. I think it kind of, you're always kind of pigeonholed into a certain style. It's going to always be, turning that camera around on yourself and saying something while something's, it's just like, it's really hard to figure out new ways for characters to be videoing themselves while something is simultaneously scary happening as well. So I just like to explore different ways to create scares, and I think you can do that more with third person perspectives outside of first person perspective filmmaking. So I kind of found it liberating in a way, and especially I know it's kind of a little, it's not popular that I did it for the last Hell House as well, but I think it will be better in the end for everybody everyone who likes Hell House, I think will appreciate the format change in the end.
So with this format also, you did something unique as far as creating chapters for each and every character. I thought that made things more personal as far as the different perspectives on the hauntings that were going on. How early in the process did you decide to do that, and what challenges did you have in making sure that you were conveying those different experiences between the characters?
Oh man, that's such a great question. The latter part of it is such a good question. The first part is like after the first draft, and I knew that I had like a lot of scares I wanted to tell, and I didn't think the way it was paced out into just a straight linear narrative worked, and so I felt like it was best to break up their stories, and then subsequent drafts after that were fun to write because then I can then find ways to intertwine them and find clues that were in one person's story and then they paid off in the other person's. That was a lot of fun to do. Now, in the post-production process, there's a lot of discussion, especially with all the my producers that were involved in it. We all watched it and we're like, is this really coming through? What you wanted here, is it make sense when we see this story and then it goes to this story? I don't in like so there's a lot of debates, a lot of re-edits, had a little bit to do why it's taken so long for this movie to come out, maybe, so but yeah, it was a challenge to make sure that that non-linear storytelling made sense. And because I tell you, my director's cut of it, which is not the cut that's out, was everything, just 125 minutes of everything, and way obviously way too long, and it needed to be cut down drastically. And that was what took probably a subsequent year after that, was for our editor and producers and everyone to sit down and say, um, what's the best version of this and how to tell it. And this, so I think the post-production editing process, exactly to your question, it was tricky to have this nonlinear, make sure that it made sense on every single beat. And so I think it was such a tough part of the post-production process.
I see. I think a lot of people would also be surprised to know that I think you were finished this film and you said 2021, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so when you were, I'm trying to get my timelines right. So were you working on this the same time you were working on the Carmichael Manor? Was that going on at the same time?
No, actually, it's funny how Carmichael Manor came about. Was I was the fact that this film was being edited, re-edited for so long, and like we were all looking at cuts and agreeing, and I was kind of getting a little impatient on my end, and I'm like, I want to get back into production and writing. I'm kind of done watching my own film over and over and over again, and I wanted to, and then I was kind of getting, I think, a little bit. It might have even been like a little bit depressed. I was like, I want to do something new. So I think what brought me joy was to jump into a new story, and that was the Carmichael Manor. And I said, okay, I'm done looking at cuts of 825. I want to start something new, and I start conceiving Carmichael, and then I just like it felt so good, and I was like, I'm back. I'm writing a whole new original story, and I'm not just in post production anymore because that went on for so long, and it was kind of driving me mad. I'm driving all of us mad. We're all just constantly just trying to find what's the best narrative to put forward. So it was just for me a breath of fresh air to step aside and start writing Carmichael Manor while the edit process and the post production process was going on for 825, and those things kind of happened a little parallel. But I needed that. I needed that parallel. I guess distraction away from the post process of 825, and the writing process of Carmichael Manor was a great distraction from the post production process of 825.
See, and also with 825, what I really like is that there's really no one that you can focus on and say, well, this is the final girl or this is the main hero between Chuck and Maria and Isabel. But whose story were you drawn to most when you were crafting this story?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it would probably be Isabel. I think, and maybe the reason why she is the middle story. But Chuck sets it all up because he's the reason they're all there. So he is the reason they're all there. But I just was always drawn to her story more because there's just more going on with her, and I kind of feel like because of not to give anything away, but because of her condition, allowed Helen in more. And so I kind of feel like she was, if you're going to pick who's the central character, I feel like she was just the most important to what happens once Chuck does make that fatal mistake of buying that house for all.
Right. One other thing that, like I said, not giving too much away, but I thought you were really effective in doing things with sound as far as with voices, particularly with Helen. Almost reminded me a little bit of the first Suspiria movie. How did that come together with like finding her actual voice as a antagonist?
It was actually a long part of the post-production process was all that. And I worked with so many fantastic post-production sound people on this, and the mixers and the effects people were so amazing. We actually found for one scene in particular where Helen is impersonating someone's voice. We actually found a great voice actor to come in, and she had that kind of almost raspy, sandy, kind of perfect voice, and then she did a lot of voiceover for us, voiceover work for us for Helen, and then that was treated by people in our sound design team who just working with them was just they just took A25 to another level, and especially everybody who worked in sound, post sound, especially also in scoring A25. I love the score for it as well. Just knocked it out of the park and just brought it to another level.
Got it. So my last question for you is that, 825 takes place in a town that's also dealing with kind of a haunting, so to speak. So that leaves room for a lot more lore. Would I be jumping the gun to state that 825 takes place in the same universe as Hell House?
I thought that would be a fun idea to have, and I can't say officially yes or no, just because the only problem where I explored that myself was like I would love these to live together if they could, but they do cross over with the same actress. So with from Hell House 3 into this, and that was my only drawback. Was like, can I really, even though they're two completely different characters, if you use the same actress, does that really count? But yeah, I did like toying with that idea myself while writing and shooting and in post. I'm like, these are two worlds that can coexist and be in the same universe. And but it's never nothing I ever made like official or anything like that. But it's something the same idea that you had was been on my mind as well.
Well, Stephen, I appreciate your time. Thank you for, a wonderful film. Looking forward to everybody seeing it on April 4th. And then, of course, later on in the year, everybody checking out Hell House Lineage. But thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. Those questions were fantastic. Thank you for them. They were awesome.
No problem. Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Take care.